Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Team and Ambitions. Thanks for joining us once again. We have our DLC Seattle recap video tonight. I am Andrew. I'll be your host again. And joining me, as always, the one and only sleepyGary Lindner, and of course, Breitenstein, theHapaOne. Gentlemen, last DLC of the entire season, we had our talk with Lewis Brown, who is our sole representative of the top 64 and did us very proud. But we didn't do too bad ourselves. How did it go for you guys as a whole?
No complaints, no complaints. I actually had a more enjoyable time than I did in Vegas. I thought the event was ran a lot smoother. Turns out when you put tablecloths on your table, it just changes the whole dynamic of the tournament. So, and you know what? I can't complain. I did 1 point better than I did in Vegas, and it turns out that 1 point better means a whole difference. So,
and it was my first DLC, so I went in with no expectations and did pretty well. I hit a lot of hard decks for my deck to compete with, but overall I had a really great time. I met a lot of great people, and yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, we sure did enjoy having the DLC up here in the Pacific Northwest in our backyard. If any of you caught us along the way, please let us know, drop a comment, leave a like, give us a shout out. We're going to talk about our experiences here. We'll start with Friday, which is probably the biggest change in DLCs from the first one in Atlanta to now in Seattle, where Friday was kind of all right, let's show up, let's get ready for the tournament, to Friday actually being a premier day to not just test your decks, but really win some pretty good swag. Personally, I actually did not show up on Friday until about noon. My one and only event was the first chapter sealed, and that did not go well. So there's not really anything to talk about for me from that standpoint. I actually suffered my first sealed loss on that Friday in all 4 of my DLCs. So I had a really good streak going into that day, but you know what? You can't beat your pool. My pool was trash.
in the multiple sealeds you went, you were just undefeated for every sealed?
Completely undefeated. I think in
Ooh, what a record.
I know. It was my probably one of my achievements of just earning tickets, was to make it the whole way. I also had the benefit of some pretty good pulls. I pulled 2 enchanteds in all of my seals combined. I had a enchanted King Candy in one of them, and then Aladdin from the first chapter sealed in Vegas. So the luck was on my side too. But this time, not even close.
I mean, I can't win them all though, but I'll take 3 out of 4 all day.
Well, I was up at 5 a.m. to drive up. I actually picked up Lewis in the morning, and he lives half an hour from me. So drove half an hour, then drove 3.5 hours to Seattle, and then just had to be ready to play some competitive. It didn't go great, but also I was testing out some things in the deck and ended up changing a lot of them for Saturday. And the deck did a lot better on Saturday. So it was more to trial some things that I wasn't sure about. And so it worked out for that. I probably should have dropped and played sealed, but I wasn't thinking, and just kept trying to play competitive. I think I ended up just out of I needed 1 more win or something to get into the points, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I ended up going Thursday night, staying at a friend's house. Slept on their air mattress that had a hole in it, so basically sleeping on the floor all the weekend. Ended up doing Friday playing green steel because I was classic move of in between 2 different decks, didn't know which to decide, so I was like, you know what, Friday will tell me what I play Saturday. I did play green steel, ended up not doing too well, and the moment I knew I didn't want to be on that deck anymore was that I had 2 Diablos on a hidden cove and a Sad Boy Beast on a hidden cove. He proceeds to kill the hidden cove, ice block beast, Sisu my board state, and then I just lost. And I drew 10 plus cards. Those Diablos and beasts stayed for multiple turns, and I still lost. And I was like, you know what? This ain't me, fam. So I did the cardinal sin and just played a different deck, which ended up doing well on Saturday. But yeah, Friday, not that great, but it's fine. It gave me useful information that I needed in the first place.
How do you like the new idea of Friday kind of being, there's events to be played out? Some people had I think the general population is pretty happy with Friday being kind of a pretty marquee event. Like you could win. The competitive constructed is probably like one of the biggest changes where people are like, yep, this is a big event. All the big players are there. They're testing out stuff. Zan was there. Zach was there. Like everyone was playing. So you had your first chance to really hit those big names or see them for the first time if you hadn't seen them in previous DLCs. What is your impression of it? I know both of you didn't necessarily have experience with it before it became kind of a bigger event, but how do you think it would have fared if, for example, all you had access to was like Pack Rush and on-demand stuff?
I think it'd be like empty, right? Like,
yeah, I was gonna say,
why would you go spend money at the vendors who are arguably overpriced? The other thing though is I wish I did some of the like special events on Friday because I had them signed up for Sunday and was never able to get them because they were like an hour plus wait all day. When Friday there was like no line all day.
Yeah. I think from a competitive standpoint, it's great, right? I love the information, love all that stuff. You kind of get a feel of the meta going into tomorrow. But even for just casual people, I still think it's great. I actually think like, yes, it would be less attended if they didn't have the competitive construction. But it was still great. Like I did the developer pack rush thing that was free, and it was awesome. Like, in fact, I loved it so much I did it again the next day, or on Sunday. So yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's nice to like walk the halls or maybe do an event here or there just to kind of chill out before the main event. Or if you're just kind of going and seeing what's up, I think that's very valuable. If they didn't do anything on Friday, like, then people would just be going either on Friday night or Saturday morning, which is boring.
Yeah, before the only incentive to go on Friday was to get your promo, and at the time it was like Flotsam Jetsam promo, which you didn't have a way of getting it through a different means. So people were doing it just because like, hey, it's a promo that you don't have yet. But now, I'm encouraged by the fact that they're taking this information and editing it, right? Because Atlanta didn't have any events at all on Friday. But now, like, the room was basically like 70% full by comparison to like the main event. Like everyone was there. Even the attendees, just like you said, like they had a reason to be there on Friday with their competitive players as well, like the families or like your partner or whoever. So it felt like a big event, and it gives me a lot of hope that like in the future, what if they come up with other things? Like, yeah, you met artists, you played Pack Rush with developers. Like that's super cool. Like what other things are they going to come up with that is like kind of outside of the boundaries of Lorcana, but still within like the Disney realm? Like that, like this could be like a thing.
Yeah, and also like it's just cool. Like my buddy who didn't know events, he was just there to hang out with the homies and like maybe get some trades in, stuff like that. So it's really more, you get more people when there's events than when there's none, right? Because then you're just like, oh, there's no events, not a lot of people are gonna come in, get trades, stuff like that. But so Atlanta, did you just like grab your promo and leave? Like were vendors not even there, or like what did you do?
First one I went to was Chicago, and all you did was hit up the two vendors and you went back to your hotel room, and that was it. There was nothing else to do.
That's so weak. I'm glad they fixed that really quick.
Yeah.
Well, enough talking about Friday. Let's jump into the meat and potatoes of our discussion, the main event. I think all of us had a fair amount of success with the main event. Me and Brandon both played very similar decks. I'll jump into my experience first. We both played green-purple. My green-purple was just a pretty standard list with Clarabelle Cow and Ursula, the big Ursula that prevents singing. So it has a really decent run into a lot of the meta decks. The deck you want to see, far and away, red-blue. Like, if you see red-blue, you are a happy, happy guy. My first match was Steel Song. Got lucky and got a draw, and then my next two were green amber. The Kita Under the Sea discard. Took one and like drew the other one, and then my fourth matchup was like in a classic Ruby Amber Mufasa deck. And at that point, I'm like, why am I seeing all this amber? Like, come on, where's the red? Where's the blue? I need to see ramp. I need to see blue. Didn't see a single one. I think I drew that one as well, so I'm not really sitting the prettiest. I'm like right in the middle of the pack. And then the back half of the tournament is when the red blues start to come in. I got 3 of the last 5 were red blue matchups. At one point after round 7, when I think I lost to a green steel. I needed back-to-back round wins in order to make it into Let It Go territory. I beat a red purple, which is not favored. That is a very hard deck to beat, especially as the green purple. Purple does purple things. And then my last one was a red blue, and my opponent was really proud of his deck, and he absolutely should have been. He worked on it super hard. I just had the nuts and went off. And it's really hard to do with Merfolk and Bonsai when you are red blue and you don't have the answer. Landed at 44 points, which is my best performance at a DLC. 106th overall, 107th. Sorry, gotta let it go. It is. I don't have it with me. It's at PSA right now. Not because it has a 10 chance, but to keep it slabbed forever, that is a treasure that I'll keep forever. Easily the best DLC for me.
Heck yeah.
Good job, man. And I'll follow on with my green purple experience. Like Andrew said, we were on very similar decks. We actually talked about it a lot the night before and came to a lot of decisions then. We both had a little bit of difference, but basically the same deck. And I was like, please give me red blue. Please give me red blue. First matchup was green steel, and I was like, cool. This is how the day is going to go. Second matchup, I see red, I see blue. I'm like, ooh, I got this one. But it was not regular red blue. It was full control red blue. So this guy was running Madame Medusa ×3, Tremaine ×3, Be King Undisputed ×3. So I couldn't keep a board. So it's like, how do I beat someone that just my board is getting wiped every turn? So the day started off really rough, but I did come back from that. The rest of the day, I only dropped one match or one set because it was just a bad matchup. And aside from that, it was pretty good. It was a lot of draws, a lot of wins, but I only ended up at 23. I fell one win short of getting to the 30 points to get those extra tickets. But all in all, for my first competitive experience I played some competitive other games when I was a kid, but like as an adult, my first competitive experience, I think I did all right. Sometimes it is those matchups that make or break you, and I didn't get any of the favorable matchups all day. So being able to end where I ended, I was pretty happy. So looking forward to what's in store for next year, and hopefully there's some more events and try some new things and play some decks that some people don't like playing. I know green purple wasn't even one of the top meta decks by any means. It was in the other category in Seattle.
Yeah,
so
that's crazy to me. I saw it everywhere.
I did too. I mean, on Friday it was everywhere.
And that's crazy because I think at like round 6 or 7, I was next to 3 green purple decks, and we were all just looking at each other like, were we it? Like, and we know that's not true. Like, we know that's not true. One made top 8. Like, that really, really unique one with Beast Relentless and the Mystical Rose. Our buddy Aubrey Perry got top 64 with a very similar build to us. Green Purple was there. It's crazy that people didn't see it coming. I mean, Zan's list did put it as like a tier 2 deck, which I would agree. It runs a very weak game into Green Steel, and Green Steel obviously won the tournament, but it has a fair matchup into basically everything else.
I just don't understand how Blurple was 6% of the meta, yet Green Purple wasn't. Like, why was everyone on Blurple all of a sudden? It's probably those Euro lists, man, but like 6%, that's insane. Blurple was like 0.5% in Vegas, and then everyone was like, yo, what if we made this 10 times more popular? I mean, it's a fun deck, I get it, but 6%, like, people were cooking. I, myself, was on a purple variant, but I was like, green cards, those are cringe. Let's put some red cards in there and play red-purple. I was on the 63 card special, not that far off from our own top 32 champion, Lewis Brown, the big old fish. Shout out to you. My first matchup, my opponent rocks me with fully decked out green steel. I'm talking max rarity. He was shifting enchanted tinks over enchanted morphs. I was like, man, that is a $200 card that we'll never see again. On top of it was like a $500 card. Yeah, he triple diabled me game 1. Needless to say, I lost, but I managed to actually get game 2, so I'll take that all day. Green Steel's a hard matchup for red purple. Throughout the tournament, I did the traditional complaint that people do about red purple. So how'd your games go? I drew. Oh, okay. How'd your game go? I drew. Oh, right. Oh, game 3? I drew. So, like, I did the traditional red-purple thing of just drawing. Eventually, I did get into the spot that kind of is its own meta in a way, where basically I needed to 2-0 my next 4 games in order to get into a let it go range, and everyone else pretty much agreed that said, hey, if we draw, we're both out of let it go range. Nobody wants that. So we kind of did this 1-game format where basically someone would play we would play 1 game, and whoever won that 1 game, the loser of that game would just concede. We didn't want to rob each other of the potential of doing a let it go. It is what it is. It's part of the format. But eventually, I did end up winning 4 consecutive best of ones. All my opponents were very nice. They understood. I got lucky because I did not play against any red blue until basically the sudden death matches where I got it 3 times. And I was just slamming castles left and right. They would hide away 1, I'd slam 2 more. And eventually I got it, and I got this let it go for it. So, it is what it is, but I'm happy about it. Very excited. My opponents were very cool, all very nice, and yeah, I had a great time. And I would run red purple back, definitely. It did very well. Like, it was represented.
I think it's important that you alluded to like that meta within the meta, which is the 1-game format kind of paradox, right? It is technically completely legal because it is founded on the ideas of effectively a gentleman's agreement. As long it follows the rules, as long as you do play Lorcana to dictate the outcome of the game. And that is what the overhead announcements are at these events, which is you must play Lorcana in order to dictate the outcome. The only time that's not okay is if you do an intentional draw, which, Lewis did because that made sense to do because he was already in the top 64. So all within the confines of the game. You just cannot force your opponent to concede. You cannot offer anything to concede or anything like that. So this is one of those scenarios where language is obviously key. I was in a scenario where I had to do 2 and got both the red-purple matchup and the red-blue matchup. So kudos to my opponents who played the hell out of their decks and really gave me a run for my money. The last one, I literally just had the nuts and just went off. It could not have gone really much better for me and you, Dylan, other than getting 1 more point and really just being in that top 64 range.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because like when you win 1 sudden death match, you're like, okay, it's only 3, 2, and then like you're on the last one, you're like, this is it. This is all the marbles. Like, I just played 3 consecutive sudden death matches to get to this one. So if I lose it, man, it feels like all that work was for nothing. So I definitely get it. And yeah, it's like you said, it's a gentleman's agreement. I'm not saying like, hey, let's roll a die, or hey, I'll give you money. Nope. It's just basically saying, you know what? I don't want to cost you your let it go. You don't want to cost me your let it go. We're going to settle this with a game of Lorcana. And that's it.
I gotta say, that last round could not have been more tense. It might have been the most intense game of Lorcana I think I've ever played in my entire life. It just...
Oh, yeah, definitely.
To have it like an opening where you just like look at it and like, oh, merfolk, bonsai, kit, and like a rabbit, and I'm like, oh, I just have it. I just actually have it. Sweet. As long as I just see red, blue, I'm in really good shape. So let's take a second and just dive. We'll get into Sunday in a second. We have someone who has played his first and someone who has now played his second. Obviously, the second one went better than the first, but you've now had some experience with the format. You now have played the 2-game format for 9 rounds. It took like 10 or 11 hours to complete the whole thing. It was still a very long day, even though we only played 18 games, well, theoretically, of Lorcana. What were your impressions of the actual format of the tournament?
I think there's a lot of issues with both the format and the structure. Mainly because 2-game promotes 1 game, and then afterwards you have to have 3 games. So you're having 3 different formats in a tournament, which is not the greatest. Also, for those of you who know math, 2,000 players should not equal 9 rounds. It should be 10 to 11 rounds. So you're having less rounds than you should, and you're having a very brutal format. So it's kind of bloodthirsty out there. And also, like, if you go 5-0, you can just ID your next 4 rounds. So that just means you just have to play half the tournament, and as long as you 2-0, you're golden. Like, you don't have to struggle. And I think it promotes a lot of issues about that. Now, I understand their issue, like, they're concerned about the die roll and best of 3, because then people are saying, well, If I win the die roll, 70% chance of winning every single game I play. I get that, but I'm not 100% convinced that 2-game is necessarily the answer. It's just so stressful. It promotes a lot of different formats, and maybe if they extend the rounds, it'd be less brutal. But I don't know.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. It didn't feel good. Like I'm like having fun playing the game, but also it's like I only have 2 games to win both. Like, and then if I don't, then I just draw, and then I'm stuck in draw limbo where nobody makes it. So I kind of agree. It felt brutal because everyone wanted to win 2 games. So every game was pretty drawn out sometimes just because everyone's trying to figure out every single line they have to get those 2 wins. And it made for a very long day, even though we were only playing 2 games every round.
Yeah, I think the general consensus is that we've all just learned that it's really, really hard to sweep somebody. They either have to really just have a significant disadvantage to your deck, or they have to stumble pretty hard in order for you to have a good chance of beating them. And the statistic of either of those things happening multiple times in a row, which you need to happen in this kind of format, is just incredibly low. Now, Lewis obviously went 5-0. He very much had 3 matches where he just outplayed his opponent, but 2 of them where his opponent stumbled. You just can't count on that. That's not reliable. Now, I always liken this to something like, the World Series of Poker, where, you could be the best poker player ever, but you're going to lose to a straight on the river or whatever. Like, it's just going to happen. So, like, variance always kind of kicks in, and in a card game like this, 9 rounds, like, you just play 9 different decks. You just never know. You could just play red blue all day. You could just play red purple all day. When you enter the tournament, you're just basically giving yourself a shot to be part of the big scene.
And it's not to discredit like skill. Like clearly the players who are good are still topping well, right? You have your Zans, your the Candios, all those people. So there's still a skill element involved. The problem is I feel though luck tends to lean more, and at least in my opinion, right? Because you have to get good match. It doesn't matter if you're the best player in the room. If you just get the worst matchup, that's a matchup you can't afford. I mean, basically, we did the math, and in order to like top, I think we said you have to get no more than 5 losses. If you drew and got 2-0, that's 3 of your losses gone, and that's just 2 games. So like, it's kind of crazy the amount of just sweeping you have to do.
All right. Well, we've talked about the main event. I think fair enough. We will see how things evolve. Perhaps they'll add more rounds in the future. Maybe they'll go back to a best of 3 format, and they already recognize best of 3 as like an option. The tops wouldn't be best of 3. Store champs wouldn't be best of 3 if they didn't see it as like, yeah, this is also a completely viable way. Oh, I guess the side events wouldn't be best of 3. So we'll see if best of 2 is here to stay. Sunday. Let's talk about Sunday. Gentlemen, what did you do on Sunday?
Hung out most of the day, honestly. Yeah, in the morning, I kind of showed up, watched a few of Lewis's early matches. I had some sealed Floodborn around lunchtime. That could have went better, but I was just doing it for fun that day, and then did some trading in the like afternoon before I left. So more of a chill day. I needed a day to just decompress and relax after that Saturday, because it was pretty intense Saturday. I mean, even though like I didn't do great, every match was very intense all day. So it was a day to rest and just recover a little bit for me.
What about swag? Did you get any cool Sunday swag?
I did. I went in here. I actually have it all on my desk because I haven't put it away yet. I got my promos, obviously. So we got Cindy's and Rapunzel.
Yeah.
And then did some card trading and buying, and got some revives, which don't ask me why yet. Don't ask me why yet on the revives.
Ooh.
But they'll be something spicy for next set.
Ooh. I dig it. Sunday. Your boy's a mad lad. He woke up to play at the 8 a.m. competitive constructed because after playing 9 rounds of Lorcana, I said, bet, let's do 8 more. I woke up at 6:30 because the parking garage is $13 if you get in before 7 o'clock, and I made sure I got in before 7 o'clock. because otherwise it'd be like $40. So not only did I wake up tremendously early for my 8 a.m. tournament of 8 rounds Swiss 2-game format after just completing 9, but we were in the same situation. We ran it back. I was going to play a different deck, but then I got too lazy, so I was like, let's run it back with red purple. I did what red purple does best, and I drew a bunch of games. Eventually I had to go into a situation like I did yesterday or the day before, was that I had to play a gentleman's best of 1 agreement. I had to do it 3 different times. At one point, I even paired against Green Steel and lost a die roll, and I was like, this is it. I'm cooked. He played turn 1 Diablo. That's it, boys. Tournament run over. Luckily, he never shifted the Diablo, and even though I was playing against probably my worst matchup on the draw, I managed to sink it. My last round opponent was on blue-red. I never saw a castle, never really saw like any good creatures, but just turning dude sideways ended up getting there. At one point, my Elsa quested for like 3 to 4, and that was just good enough. So I ended up placing in top 16, which got me 80 tickets, which was fantastic. At one point during the lunch break of our competitive event, I went back to the developer pack rush to play again. So I was doing events within events in events. It was eventception. Developer pack rush, super great. Definitely recommend it for future DLCs. It's free. It's cool. The developers are really nice.
I was trying all day to get in on it, and it was an hour plus wait every time. So I couldn't.
Sells out quick.
Killed me.
Quick. Yeah, and apparently you can get first chapter packs from there, so that's what I chose. It's very worth it. But yeah, I ended up getting top 16, which was 80 ticks, which gave me enough to get a Cinderella mat. So I kind of planned it out where I was like, okay, in theory, 8 a.m. competitive constructed gives me enough time to do the 2 p.m. first chapter, which it did. So I ended up doing the first chapter one, but I was so tired after all this. I do not recommend what I did, which is play Friday competitive constructed, Saturday competitive constructed, and Sunday competitive constructed. It's such an Iron Man way to go, and I was super tired. So I ended up just opening my packs and just kind of dropping for the first chapter event. I was done. By the time then, I was able to grab my tickets, and I was able to get a Cindy playmat, which I was very lucky because I believe my buddy texted me like a minute after I got mine. They're like, oh, they're sold out. So I got probably the last Cinderella playmat ever now. I got an extra Rapunzel, got Andrew a snazzy dad hat. So all in all, great tournament. Do not recommend doing 3 competitive events in a row. It was crazy, but yeah, it was great. Had a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're crazy. I wouldn't even attempt that.
I just hate myself sometimes, and you gotta so you gotta do what you gotta do, man. You know, was it worth it? Probably not, but still.
Yeah, you got a Cindy mat, right? Yeah, I got a
Cindy mat. Yeah.
Well, my Sunday was very short. My favorite side event is always going to be sealed. I really like limited. Making the best of cards that you just don't get to play or maximize their potential of is my jam. And I did Floodborn sealed and first chapter sealed. Floodborn, again, a pool that was just not good. I got a Mufasa. That was cool. Didn't have any of the zoo package. No Madam Mims, no rabbits, no goats, no nothing. Not even a squirrel. I didn't even get a squirrel. Didn't get Storm. Didn't get Strength. Didn't get really any kill. So I'm like, well, this pool is terrible. And my first opponent just played beef on me the whole game. And I was like, well, I can't deal with any of this. I don't even have a crab to even have a chance to deal with any of this. So nothing. So very quickly realized that was a lost cause. And then truthfully, by 3, I was done. I think if this was not in Seattle, I would have felt very differently. But knowing I was driving distance from home, granted 3 hours from home, but also knowing I had a 3-hour drive leading into it, I'm like, you know what? It was raining. I just didn't want to really stay. And after being on the emotional high of getting to let it go yesterday, I was already freaking out from that. I was like, you know what? I'm good. This was a successful DSC. I don't need to sneak more. I'll just stay for the first chapter sealed, see what I open up. If it's good, sure. If it's bad, I'm out of here. And it was even worse than the Friday pool. At least the Friday pool had like a surfer stitch. This one had nothing. Like nothing. No, oh, it had Beast Wolfsbane. And it's funny because I said, all right, watch, I'm going to pull like Beast Wolfsbane in my, that's going to be my legendary. And everyone around me is just like, oh, that would be really funny. And of course it's in my last pack. So, you know.
You manifested it, man.
Oh, God, I should have asked for a Rapunzel at least. Like, it is my fault. There were, I think, 3 elses pulled in that pool compared to 0 in the first one. So, I guess in the future, if you're going to play first chapter sealed, play the second one. That's where all the elses are living.
It was so hyped, too, because people were, like, getting in there. Like, someone was like, Elsa, and everyone's like, yeah! It was great. Like someone like rushed in and gave the guy a top loader. He's like, "You need this." It was so hype. I love the energy though when people pull enchanteds. Everyone's so happy for them.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And I think the 2 elses were actually in adjoining tables. Like they were literally 4 pack pulls away from each other, or pack bundles away from each other. So that's already wild. I don't think anybody at our table even had one or even close to it, but whatever. That's the game we play, right? So yeah, then I went home. I had my tickets, much less than normal, but I was also like trading some away to some fellow team members who needed to get their Cindy match or their promos to end. Since we don't know when DLCs are coming back and what's gonna be the prize at the end of those. But I got a shirt, which I didn't have before. I got the dad hat, which I didn't have before. I got the flat brim one before. Dad hat, much better. I was big on the flat brim because it was a new era brand. No, this other one, 10 times better. I made a bad choice.
Dad hats.
All in all, DLC Seattle, amazing time. It was really just a joy to spend it with basically the entirety of Team and Ambitions. We're missing like 1 or 2 members. It was not the same, of course, without those members, but to even get a chance to like hang out with the crew. And we had an extraordinary amount of regulars from not just the Seattle area, the Vancouver area, the Portland area. Like everyone was there. It was really cool to see everybody.
Yeah, it was so much fun handing out stickers and stuff like that. Someone walked up to me and recognized me as a content creator, and that just made my day. Because he's like, "Do you make YouTube videos? You don't, right?" I was like, "I do." And he's like, "I watched them." I was like, "Oh man, that butters my biscuit." Like I straight up didn't know that person, and they're like, "Yeah, I watch your videos." So that was really cool. So yeah, it was a ton of fun.
Shout out to you. We will shout out you. Thanks for watching our videos, and thanks.
Yeah, you know who you are.
Well, gentlemen, now that we are out of DLC season, I guess the next question is, what is going to be our next event? Now, if we look on the timeline, we do have a couple of them that aren't necessarily DLCs or Ravensburger really associated ones, or Pro Play Games associated ones, rather. The next one's actually PAX Unplugged, which is in the first week of December. That'll be in Philadelphia. Really cool event. I went there last year. Ravensburger was there selling product. They'll probably have set 6 available, maybe the promo as well. But also they'll have competitive events to get your convention mat. This convention mat, not this one. That one. So that will be the next event. We have one locally, which will be SCGCon in February, which is probably going to be the next really local PDX event, which is really awesome. I don't know the last time that they were here, but Lorcana was announced, so hopefully see some of y'all there. There'll be some 1Ks, probably a 5K, maybe even a 2K, who knows? Some sort of amount of K. But those should be really cool. And then, of course, we have the biggest event, which is North American Championships and Worlds in March. North American Championships will be in January, but of course the LCQ, which we know is going to happen. Gentlemen, are you going?
Yes-ish, maybe. Big maybes. Big maybe energy. I did apply to work the Continentals as a judge, so we'll see if Pro Play Games chooses me. If so, then I will definitely be there. If not, still a big maybe. I have friends in California. I'm from California originally.
Fun at the DLC. I did not really perform well enough to think I have a really decent shot at the LCQ. I mean, again, like,
Watch out for potholes in Seattle. These guys know, but when we were leaving, Lewis and I stopped for food, and it was raining and dark, and just slammed through a huge pothole. Did not sound good. Thankfully, my car wasn't terribly damaged, but it's resulting in me having to buy a few parts for it.
Love the community, love the game. It pretty much went off without a hitch. There's always going to be a few bad apples in a major event like that, but honestly, as a community goes, we're so great. And I just love it. And shout out to all the fans, both old and new. I really appreciate coming up, enjoying the stickers, hopefully future collabs and all that good stuff. So yeah, it was so much fun meeting friends, making new friends. Loved it.
Yeah, we enjoyed every ounce of the DLC season, and we cannot wait until either March or April when the next season starts. And we start migrating again. We will see how many of us travel around this time across the United States. Dylan, Brandon, thank you so much for joining me tonight. If y'all have any comments about DLC Seattle, please drop it in the comments and let us know. How did it go for you? Did you have success? Did you get to let it go? Did you make top 64? We want to hear about it. We will see you at our Azurite Sea set preview videos that are coming up in just a couple of days. Before then, you all have a good night.
Bye.
Yeah.